And welcome to Weather and Ag in Focus on this finally Friday, August 28th. Temperatures outside in the 70s across much of the area, and a few light showers on radar, stretching from about Harvey down through about the Edgeley and Ellendale area. A lot of this very light, a little bit heavier up around the Harvey area. That's all moving eastward and diminishing as it approaches the valley. I'm Chief Meteorologist Dean Wysocki, along with our Ag Director Bridgette Readel. Bridgette, how's your day going so far?
It is a dandy day. Hey, little heads up. This coming week is the Miss USA pageant, and Miss Wisconsin is competing. She is a farmer. She is an FFA advisor. She is an ag teacher. And so best of luck to Miss Wisconsin and certainly Miss North Dakota, but I thought it was pretty cool that she is taking time away from teaching and leading her FFA students while she goes to compete in the Miss USA pageant.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
I saw a little mishap out around the Steel area on 94. If you're traveling, I'm not sure if they've gotten that cleared up yet, but there's a little mishap on I-94 out by the Steel area where a big old combine got stuck under the underpass. It looked like.
That was a planter.
Oh, is it a planter? Okay.
That was a planter because you could see the folded up wings for the cultivator. And my guess is that it was being pulled by a truck, because it would be too slow to be pulled by a tractor at this point in the time. And somebody maybe didn't know that that particular overpass is an older one, and it's a little shorter than anticipated.
Uh-huh.
So, yes, it
Whoops.
could have gotten tangled up there a little bit.
Now, how do they...
And it happens.
What do they do? Just deflate the tires and tow it out? How do you get that out?
How much clearance do you need,
Right.
Can you back her up? Do you got to deflate the tires? Do you need the highway patrol to give you some room to back her up and take the exit? If you were on a tractor and you had the hydraulic power, can you drop the wings? But if you're pulling a great big cultivator, it might not be wide enough to get under the overpass. So there's some techniques. Hopefully it does not come to a cutting torch by any means.
Right. No doubt. Well, weather-wise, it's been pretty quiet around here today, and that's going to continue to be the case, it looks like, for most of the daytime hours. If you have outdoor plans today, should be good to go. Again, with the exception of a little bit of light shower activity around the Edgeley to Ellendale area, and then another batch up around the Harvey area, all that moving eastward and diminishing. So we'll call partly to mostly cloudy throughout the area today, with highs low to mid 80s and winds out of the south-southeast about 5 to 15. Tonight, we'll see a few more storms redeveloping after midnight and lows into the low to mid 60s. And for Saturday, any storms would be confined to the early morning hours, then partly cloudy, and it is going to turn humid. A pretty good surge of some humidity coming in from the south tomorrow with highs in the mid 80s. And then as we head into Sunday, another humid one, highs in the upper 80s under partly cloudy skies, and then another chance for storms Sunday night. And that will bring a little less humid air for next week, but still mild with highs in the mid 80s. And right now, sneak peek into the Labor Day weekend looks hot the way it stands right now. So one of the models is trying to clip in a cold front here and bring us a little relief for about a day and a half over the Labor Day weekend, and then turn it hot again on Labor Day. And then there will be another chance of rain as that warmer air moves in about Wednesday or Thursday of next week. So at least we do have rain chances in the forecast. And kind of like the last few systems that have gone through, there could be some areas that pick up 1 to 2 inches of rain, and 20 miles either side of that, you're not going to get much at all. So that's kind of the setup that we've got going. And unfortunately, we don't have any big widespread rain events coming, but at least we do have these chances, multiple chances. So that's a little better than what we were looking at during the month of July and the first half of August.
Well, what are we looking at for Big Iron is coming very quickly. Next week is the Farm Progress Show down in Boone, Iowa. We always know that show is going to be hot as Hades, so best of luck if you're going to Boone next week. And shortly thereafter, we'll be looking at Big Iron. So if you start thinking about that long-term forecast for the week of September 14th, will that also continue to be dry? Some years were thwarted by harvest or rain.
Right. Haven't even looked out that far. I believe the LRC had us in a little wet period then. I know we're going to see temperatures above normal, it looks like. At least through and after Labor Day week, it looked like temperatures remaining well above where we should be for this time of the year. Do we extend that into that following week? We'll wait and see.
All right. Well, we will find out what's going to work best. So, also, if you want to know what's going to work best, you go right ahead and give us a call on the JLA Insurance phone line. 701-293-9000 is where you'll find us. And also, you can email us agandweather@flagfamily.com. You can see us on our Lighthouse Commodities live stream, Facebook, YouTube, as well as Acres TV. And thanks to those who send messages through Messenger on our Facebook page. Um, for whatever reason, I was blocked on it. Well, I shouldn't say blocked, but I couldn't get to it for a little while. Now I can, and I'm catching up with some messages that have been hanging out there. And again, if I've missed anything, go ahead and send me that email, ag@flagfamily.com. Becoming much more diligent and making sure there's nothing hung up in a junk folder. I mean, there's so many ways to connect with us. Sometimes I might overlook one of them, and I apologize for that. Do not overlook your opportunity in the 2 o'clock hour to get you registered. It is your last chance to qualify for the ultimate gridiron getaway in Las Vegas. Thank you to our sponsor, United Valley Bank, where our roots make us stronger. And this contest is going to end for qualifying today. You then need to be with us on September 14th to see which one of our qualifiers wins the big package to go to Vegas to watch some football. 3-night hotel stay, VIP tickets to the football game to watch great college football. And that qualifying event will be on September 14th again, but it'll be at Kingpins. You need to be there about 5 o'clock, so don't miss out on that one. This Saturday, tomorrow, maybe if you're pre-gaming for football, you could head to the Red River Market because the folks from Common Ground, who actually have an activity going on today in Fargo, they also are hosting their Not a Latte Summer Event series. These will be soy lattes. They'll be given away for free, iced lattes, and you have the opportunity to talk directly with soybean producers about food, farming, and more agriculture than you can shake a stick at. So that is tomorrow, Red River Market, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then you can head on over to a fantastic football game as we open up the season in a new conference in this area. All right. So, other things that are going on right now, there is a rancher by the name of Brandy Buzzard down in Nebraska. I know Brandy, she's a great gal. She does a fantastic job of advocating for agriculture. And she is now a mentor for the second year with the Animal Agriculture Alliance's College Aggie Online Scholarship Program. This connects students from across the country who want to share positive factual information about animal ag. It's a 9-week program. Participants gain tools, training, hands-on experience, and there are more than $16,000 in scholarships handed out throughout the 2026 programs. Brandy Buzzard is going to be leading the Reels, Reach, and Ridiculous Growth. That's a webinar focused on helping participants who want to make a greater impact with their advocacy on up-to-date Instagram strategies and so much more. Brandy, she's a great gal. She's a rancher, she's a cowgirl, and she's a pioneer for modern ag. Back in 2019 already, she was selected as a top 10 industry leader by the Cattle Business Weekly and has been named a Masters of Beef Advocacy Advocate of the Year by the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. It is worth your time to follow Brandy and the things that she does on media. Again, she's under Brandy Buzzard, and often her reels and so forth are under the Buzzard Beat. You can also find her on Acres TV right alongside us, which is a media platform brought to us by the Ag PhD folks down in Baltic, South Dakota. After the livestock report from the American Ag Network, we are going to be joined by our guest, Julian Boyd. He is a grad student at NDSU. He's got a whole men's health program that we want to be talking about, some research, how you could be a part of it and what you could learn. And we'll do that when we come back. Well, perhaps you are thinking about a building project. And if you are, do not overlook Anderco. AndercoEnterprises.com. They've got examples of strength built to last. If you want to do something, whether it's commercial, industrial, agricultural, maybe a machine shop, maybe just a shed, whatever it might be, talk to the folks over at Anderco Enterprises, 701-277-7078. They'd be happy to work with you. Well, now, as we wind out this week, let's talk a little bit about health. And I realize we're Weather and Ag in Focus, brought to you by TCG Wheat. But also, I think it's very important that we think about rural health. And right now, the stress and strain on some of our farmers is pretty great. Well, that reflects back in our physical as well as our mental health. To talk about some of that today, especially about the research behind it, is Julian Boyd. He is a grad student at North Coast State University. Afternoon, Julian. Care to introduce yourself to our audience?
Hello, hey everyone. I'm Julian, a MPH student at North Dakota State University, and I'm here with the Department of Public Health.
Well, thank you so much for coming on in. You and I had the opportunity to visit by phone earlier. I would say that your background in agriculture differs a little bit from being a farm kid in North Dakota. Tell us more about what you learned growing up.
Absolutely. So I come from a very small rural area in Enterprise, Alabama, where there was not necessarily a Walmart really much in distance from us, but we made do best with what we had. And it is a totally different way of life compared to living in the South as it is in the Midwest, primarily because it doesn't snow or freeze more than half the year, but that's neither here nor there. However, however, I really did enjoy growing up in Alabama. It is a different way of life when it comes just living in a rural community in general. You have a sense of connectiveness, a sense of community, and as well as just a overall well-being for your neighbor.
Let's talk about your project coming up here at NDSU. Clarify, is this a master's or a doctorate project that you're working on, first of all?
So it was a master's. So it is still a master's. We are doing it independently with the Department of Health. And for the last year, we've been studying the men's health disparities, particularly in rural communities, with North Dakota's Griffiths data set. So North Dakota Health and Human Services conducted a phone survey asking various amounts of variables and questions related towards health wellness, finances. And we took all of that data and primarily just analyzed and isolated men in North Dakota and
Mhm.
rural North Dakota to see what challenges that they may be facing and as well as barriers and gaps and things of related towards the data.
Okay, so as you looked at those barriers and gaps, what were the things that you found that were showing up in the survey that you did?
The data was very alarming as we looked to see it was not what expected. The larger population of men living in these rural areas face significant amount of unhealthy outcomes. There's higher rates of suicide, higher rates of heart disease, higher rates of COPD, and as well as deaths of despair, meaning deaths or loss of life compared towards either alcohol abuse, substance abuse, and as well suicide.
That's a pretty heavy information. And
Mhm.
in North Dakota, a lot of this I'm sure is also impacted by what you see for a rural healthcare structure. It's not easy to always find a clinic when you need one.
No, absolutely. Access is a big thing. However, primarily, access is not as big as a barrier as it is stigma. I think the language and culture around men seeking care in general is what is causing men, much like myself, not wanting to go see the doctor, not wanting to sit down and talk with a health professional, and not even wanting to just simply ask a friend to drive them to the hospital or to help them schedule the appointments or even reach out for certain things that they may need.
Do you think that the age of those folks makes a difference? Do you feel like someone who's farming at 30 years old is more likely to seek that help in it and preventative care versus someone who's older, maybe in their 50s?
I think that is a good question. I also love the quote, as they say, old habits die hard, and the apple doesn't fall from the tree. So I don't know, me being as a farmer, living primarily, let's say, in a rural area of Bismarck my entire life, never seeing my father or my grandfather go to the hospital, never seeing my grandfather or father take a day off. I won't necessarily learn that from just a way of osmosis. So I think that the generations follow down the line. And if anything, what we saw, Bridget, is that men are dying a lot younger as what we call premature rates. So rates of age that are under the age of retirement, so 65. So there are a lot of men dying under the age of 65 in rural North Dakota.
Okay, a couple questions there. How much
Mhm.
younger are they under 65? And two, is that a direct correlation to we have a small population, 785,000 people, so the number looks higher because we have a smaller population group to draw from?
That's a great question. It all depends primarily on what particular county. At least what North Dakota has reported, that the life expectancy of men are 69 years. So it is 69. However, they do have premature rates where it's significantly higher in certain counties where men are dying at what we call under the age of 65, if that makes sense.
Okay, that does make sense. I am kind of seeing where you're
Mhm,
headed with that. Okay,
mhm.
now additionally, we know that they're much younger. Um, are there, and you mentioned COPD, addiction. Do we see an increase in heart disease as well in men in this state versus other states?
Absolutely. 40% of
Hmm.
deaths reported was related towards heart disease. And as we know, heart disease is a complex term. It's a broad term. So there's many factors facing heart disease. So that can be, as we talk about access, not only access to healthcare, but access to sustainable and quality food. Because nutrition plays a part in the quality of life. Having unhealthy food options increase your rate of heart disease because of hypertension and obesity, and that then leads to those complications related towards heart disease.
I think about a couple of things there. One, um, most of the especially in a busy season, right? Harvest, you're not taking the time to have something more than a sandwich or convenience store food, right? Because you feel like it's go 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 and you don't have time to take that break. Also, in many rural areas, not only are our rural hospitals and clinics scarce, but so are our grocery stores, where we're relying on something that might not have as fresh food or more expensive fresh food. Is that a correlation you're seeing in your research as well, or it might be one?
So, our particular research, we haven't seen that, but there are articles and information out there that does attribute to the lack of food, attributing to that. Me, myself, I really love Burger King French toast sticks, and sometimes I gotta have them every morning. So I completely understand. So I'm not gonna be the one to advocate and judge to say that you need to stop eating a certain food. But as we talk about having access and the quality amount of food in areas and quick access, as you said, because a lot of these men are farmers or either they work in the oil field or anything of that sort, they need something quick because they have to rush and get back to get their day started.
Hmm. Yep, I would agree with you entirely there. More questions to come, Julian. I appreciate the fact that we're going to talk about what's going on in rural men's health. It's not just farmers, it's everybody, right? It's from the folks who are working at the elevator, at the cement plant, at the lumberyard, whomever. And also, let's talk more when we come back about telehealth. What are the end goals of your project? And we'll take all the questions from our listeners today as well on the JLA Insurance phone line of 701 293 9000. You know what else is also unmatched? That would be your cybersecurity when you use Tech Support Farm. Take a look at the fence check assessment if you haven't, because we know that those cyber criminals are hanging around and they're watching your information. They're paying very close attention to what's happening when it comes to insurance checks being mailed out, to what's going on with disaster payments, and they want to swoop in and take yours. So have that look at fence check assessment. Again, tech support. That farm is there to protect you. Our guest today is Julian Boyd. He is a grad student at North Coast State University. We're talking about rural men's health, and there's a lot of big aspects to that. Things that we should be thinking about, considering. One of them was we discussed the stigma that can go along with seeking help. So, Julian, in your research or research that you are doing going forward, do you see telehealth being a assistance where people come past that concern and are able to maybe improve their health conditions because of telehealth?
Absolutely. I think in terms of telehealth, it does increase the access for, as we talk about mental health services, because rural areas are up to 65% less likely to have some sort of psychiatrist or mental health provider just in general. And I think rural health, in terms of rural health and telehealth, the connection piece towards that is also making sure that individuals have access to quality internet and as well as the time and care to actually see someone. Now, in
Tell
terms
you
of
what,
just getting access,
oh no, you keep talking, then I've got another
oh,
comment for you. You're good.
I, I was going to say, in terms of access, as we know, the Rural Health Transformative Plan is bringing lots of money into the state. They also have a huge initiative that talks about access, and they just recently opened up amount of funding up to I think $1 million towards having transportation for non-emergency medical services. So if individuals actually may need as what we call specialized care that will require a physician or some type of medical health professional in person, they will be having that opportunity hopefully within the next few years.
Well, all right. I'm making some notes as we talk about this. That rural health transformative funding is going to be helpful in many areas. My concern is, and maybe you know a little bit more about this. If you don't, that's okay. But do you feel like because we're a rural state, we're supposed to be judged apples to apples? So, like the Jamestown Hospital is supposed to be as the same as compared to, say, um, Rugby. Okay, Rugby's hospital, but they're not the same. They're serving two different populations and they're able to offer two different sets of services. So is funding going to be fairly distributed between the two, or does a slightly higher healthcare or larger healthcare system like Jamestown get more funding because of their size versus what Rugby might get? Just using that as an example.
That's a great question, Bridget. And I think when we talk about, as you mentioned it, you somewhat sort of answer your own question, is that each hospital and area is specific. So they would need specific amount of funding, and let's say Rugby Hospital has more of a specific rate of, let's say, heart disease versus Jamestown
Hmm.
has cancer that may require more amount of money in funding. Now, I necessarily don't know in particular if the grant itself yields a certain amount or either they can apply for a higher amount or if it's just a set rate. However, as we talk
Sure.
about not only it being balanced but also just equity and receiving targeted care for that area.
As we are talking about telehealth as well, do we know that there is a high number of Americans without health insurance. Does any of that data play into the research that you're doing too? And is it making it easier or tougher when you don't have health insurance to even be a part of telehealth?
I think it's easier, or I think it's a lot tougher regardless if you have health insurance or not. Medical fees and different policies change throughout the years, and it's even more expensive paying out of pocket nowadays as it is just as paying with a employee provided or either a private insurance company. So I think that a lot of individuals necessarily do have health care through their employer, but also, as we know, most recently, a lot of farmers and farm workers
Hmm.
are losing their access to health insurance.
You're doing a fabulous job of answering all sorts of random questions I've come up with, which I really appreciate, Julian. But let's talk about your end goals with this project. What
Mhm.
is when did you're going to get to the point where you say, I have found all the information that I need? What does that look like?
I don't think we will ever get to that point. I think we will get to okay, all right, we have enough information. Let's try to figure out what we can do with it. As of right now, we still are on what we call the collecting stage, and we need more outreach and more voices to have these targeted interventions. Because although, as we mentioned, there's a ton of money coming into the state, we want to make sure that it goes to the areas that is necessary, and as you mentioned, equitable and it's balanced because certain areas need more amount of care and more amount of money versus another county. And so what we've been doing right now is creating what we call these focus groups or interviews with community members such as local public health officials, farmers, and different ag people to just simply have a conversation on what makes their experience unique as being a man or either just the individual seeing men in North Dakota but also in rural North Dakota. What about that is unique, and what can we do with that information?
Well, you sent us some graphics, and we're going to certainly run one of them right now because it talks specifically about who you're looking for. And by that, how can men be a part of your research? So if you could talk about that for us, I'd appreciate it.
Absolutely. So we will be developing, as it says, an informal discussion style Zoom up here in the next couple weeks or so, and they have information to where they can either contact me or either the professor over the project, Dr. Strand, and they can set up either a time or a session to, if they want to share their information or the experience collectively as a group or as well as an individual. And as you were mentioning before we started, you were talking about the weather in Big Iron, which I unfortunately may have to move my schedule around because all I heard that everything was going to be hot, 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 hot Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday. But we will be there in the Big Iron Show on Wednesday, September 16th. So that's Wednesday, September 16th from the morning through the afternoon. We'll be at the NDSU Department of Pharmacy as they have a health clinic. We'll be there with some fellow NPH students, just having some more discussions and as well as collecting information so we can go to the people so the people can have the information that they need.
I am also going to make sure to post this on our Weather and Ag in Focus Facebook page because the requirements, if you are 18 years or older, farmer, agronomist, community members living in rural North Dakota, and if you have access to the internet and a computer, and I love that you say reliable access. Oh, Jillian, we're going to hope for the best, but sometimes you got to park in a pickup in your pasture to get good service. Nonetheless, there is an informal discussion style Zoom session that is a 1 hour conversation, and participants' responses are indeed anonymous. And you've got your contact information here. So those who have questions can reach out and talk with you directly so that they understand very clearly what you're looking for and how you can be helping them with access. So um, just to review, though, for those who might not be looking at the live stream brought to us by Lighthouse Commodities, Julian, how do people find you?
You can find me at julian.boyd at ndsu.edu. So that's JULIAN.BOYD at North Dakota State University.edu.
That is fantastic. And also, our last graphic talks about just a reminder if you or anyone that is in your community and in your surroundings that is struggling as far as their mental health is concerned right now, there are, in fact, a couple of ways to reach out for help. And Julian, would you care to review those, please?
Absolutely. As we have the 988 suicide lifeline, and as well as the farm aid hotline, where it has individuals within the farm and ag industry that know exactly what you're going through. And that's 800 farm aid, FARMAID. And this is to, as we talk about suicide, September will be National Suicide Awareness Month.
so thankful that you were able to join us and share this information. For all of the listeners out there today, Julian, I hope you have a great rest of your Friday.
Thanks, you too.
All right, when we come back, we're going to recap what is going to be a warm and humid weekend. We haven't had a lot of humidity lately. That's back in the forecast, and along with that humidity, the chance for more rain. I'll have more on that coming up here right after the break. And welcome back to Weather and Egg in Focus on this Friday, 1:50 in the afternoon, and temperatures outside in the 70s across the area. We do have some shower and even a few embedded thunder showers from about Harvey up through Devil's Lake. And then one little batch of thunder showers just northwest of Jamestown, and a little bit of activity down from Edgeley down towards Ellendale area. All that moving slowly to the east-southeast. Now, by the time it gets to the Red River Valley, it should start to diminish. But I can't rule out, let's say a few light showers after 4 o'clock. And then we'll start to see more thunderstorm activity expected to develop overnight. Most of that looks to be just to the south of the FM area, where some areas of the far southeastern part of the state, let's say from Edgeley through Oaks and over towards Hankinson, those areas could get some locally heavy rain, kind of like what happened just earlier this week, where those areas down to our southwest got 1 to 2 inches of rain, and 20 miles either side of that. Unfortunately, not a lot at all. But at least there is some rain in the forecast here for the FM area. I think a lot of this, though, is going to hang, at least the heavier rain, hang on down to our south, at least for tonight. But for the rest of the day, if you have outdoor plans here in the valley and the lakes country, should be okay with we'll call it increasing clouds throughout the day. About 84 for a high, and then those scattered storms overnight tonight as we drop off into the low 60s, and then a warm and humid weekend. We're looking at temperatures in the mid-80s on Saturday, quite a bit of humidity. Any storms would be confined to the early morning hours, and the rest of the day should have partly cloudy skies. An isolated storm possible Saturday night, then a hot and humid one on Sunday with highs in the upper 80s. And a better chance for storms on Sunday night as drier air moves in early next week with temperatures in the mid-80s. And by the end of next week, it looks like we heat things back up with more humidity, and it looks like a pretty hot start to the Labor Day weekend. So summer just does not want to really let go. And there is, like I said, we need the moisture. Timing on this is obviously going to be important, but at least there is a little more activity over the next week to 10 days.
Well, I would say that we're all going to be keeping a close eye on what's been happening, especially as we have people have docks and lifts to take out of the lake. They got football games to go to.
Mm-hmm.
They've got a lot of things happening, and nobody wants to be caught short on what's happening with rainfall right now. And we're going to get into a heavier combining season. We're still seeing some pre-lift on sugar beets. I had messages this morning, but there will certainly be more things coming up very soon. All right, potatoes. U.S. retail potato sales remain stable in the last year, and this total retail dollar sales have reached $20 billion, essentially unchanged. That's 15 billion pounds of potatoes. That's their fresh weight equivalent, and total volume has declined less than 1%. So really, fresh potato volume is holding steady. Deli prepared side dishes are up just slightly. Potato chips, not that far down, really less than a 0.1%. I would have thought with the whole change in diet and real focus on protein, maha, etc., that we would see a big change in potato chips. But the place we saw the change was actually in more instant and dehydrated potatoes. So folks are wanting to go ahead and certainly find fresh potatoes more frequently. Personally, I don't think I've used instant potatoes. It's been probably before I went to college. Just
really
fresh
okay.
potato fan. Yeah,
yeah.
I don't.
Not a fan of Hungry
instant.
Jack.
I hear they make awesome pancakes, but I got this sourdough starter named Ted in my fridge. Same effect.
Man, you don't know what's good. All right, anyways, keep going, I guess.
I am also the animal that will eat an Oreo without milk. Remember, you pointed this out.
Yeah, you might as well just eat a handful of sand. I don't know how you're even pulling that one off. You can't just no one's out here just eating cookies without a cold glass of milk. Fight me on it.
I don't have to fight you on it. I'm going to let that one run. I think we're going to be okay. Now, when it comes to other little tidbits that are happening, farm rescue volunteers have been down in Nebraska working very diligently with those who were affected by wildfires earlier in March of this year. And it's one of those areas where people were pretty desperate. A lot got totally wiped out. Lost cattle, lost fencing, lost farm equipment. Nearly 1 million acres have burned. There was a tremendous amount of hay that Farm Rescue was able to haul into that area to assist many ranchers who were in need. And they were looking for good quality hay, of course. One of the things to remember, especially in a year like this where folks are going to be buying hay for a variety of reasons, you want to check the quality, because if someone was just taking hay out of anywhere, it can come loaded with weed seeds that maybe you didn't have from before. So have that conversation with whomever you're buying your hay from. Can you tell me what was in the field? We'd want it to be a little better quality than just bringing some non-existent weeds into our operation at this point. And we got a lot of fairs going on. Some of the earliest fairs can be traced back to the Aztecs, actually. That was in the site of current today Mexico City. America's first fair happened before the country was really even a country. It happened in York in 1765. That was before our nation was founded. And it was a 2-day agricultural market known as the Penn Park. And after 50 years, those fairs did come to an end. 36 years later, in 1851, the fair was revived, still held today in York, Pennsylvania, even though Pennsylvania does not have an official state fair. Modern fairs really got going in 1807. A farmer and banker in Massachusetts felt that this was a good way to convince other farmers to raise sheep because he was showing off his own sheep. Townspeople were so impressed, they also formed the first Berkshire Cattle Show in 1810. The idea of fairs spread very quickly through the United States, so by the time we had the Civil War, 25 states had annual fairs. And that tiny event in Pittsfield, Massachusetts, went on to become the Massachusetts State Fair, which has since merged with Connecticut, Maine, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, and Vermont, and they call it the Big E, formerly known as the Eastern States Exposition. The rest of the fairs, New York happened to have their first state fair in 1841, an ongoing tradition and one of the oldest and largest fairs in the United States. The second state fair was actually held in Detroit, Michigan, and that ran from 1849 to 2009. The biggest one that gets 2.25 million visitors annually is actually the Dallas location in the Lone Star State of Texas. They might have the best attended state fair, but Minnesota, giving them a run for their money, more than a third of the state's population heads on in for the Great Minnesota Gathering every year in that area. All right, there's more to come on fair history because we're in that season right now, and we'll maybe get to some of that next week.
No doubt, no doubt. Well, that'll do it for today's edition of Weather and Ag in Focus. Go out and have an absolutely fantastic weekend. We don't have many summer weekends left, so take advantage of it. The Jay Thomas Show, it's coming up next.